Guys, welcome back to Geeks Love Dogs Book Dragons. And today we'll be doing a weekly reading wrap-up where we'll talk about what I've read, what I'm reading, what I'm going to read, some channel stuff, some random nonsense, and yes, Cthulhu being here does tie in to one of today's books. So, Elder Gods willing, you'll be here to have a good time with me and hopefully enjoy it. So, here we go. Let us speak on what I've finished, shall we? Make some room. And the first thing I finished this week was Married with Children versus the World. This is written by Richard Gurman, a former staff writer on the show, and he goes through some of the challenges that they faced getting the show on the air, getting it made public, getting the casting in place, and through each of the 11 seasons, he touches upon some of the stories from the season behind the scenes, as well as some of the stories that were put on film for the show. One of the more interesting bits happened during season 3, when a woman by the name of Terry Raculta sat down with her children for family television time and came across Married with Children, which was airing at 8:30 at the time, and was completely offended by what she saw. And instead of turning the channel, she decided to get famous when her self-righteous indignation forced her to start firing off letters, which led to talk shows and letters to sponsors who did pull out. Some of the sponsors did leave the show. Her complaints became a nationwide event. She was a household name for a bit as she complained about the state of television. And this coming on the heels of a satanic panic and the moral majority still having a foothold in the public consciousness as believing they knew what was best for everyone in the world, not just them and their kids, had to let everybody know how they felt. And fortunately, her name became a verb. The Raculta effect now represents people who bring attention to something through their complaints and make it more popular. And that's exactly what happened, fortunately. Though she did get some sponsors pulled, it actually benefited Married with Children in the end because they became hugely famous based on this. Their viewership kept going up and up and up after the third season and her complaints, and therefore could bring in more expensive sponsors. So her complaints actually kept Married with Children on the air and increased their viewership, their profits exponentially. And I say, good. If you don't like something, if you're offended by a television show, a video game, an album, a movie, don't watch it. It's not your place to tell people what they can watch, what they can read, what they can play. Move on. In any case, the book was very good. It was a lot of fun. It was a quick read. In fact, this is one of those times I'm going to say, I wish it was longer. It was enjoyable. I was really enjoying my time in there, and I wanted to know more. There was some really interesting bits in there about how the casting came about, things that happened during the season, how the show ended and such. If you're a fan of the show, if you're a fan of nonfiction and television history, great read. Highly recommend. Go get it, read it, get it from the library, something. But if you're a TV fan, if you're a fan of the show, you'll really enjoy this. It was really interesting. Like I said, just too short. It needed to be more full, given more information. There needed to be more added to it, I think, for it to be a great read. It was a really good read, and I'd give it 4 out of 5. I just wanted more. That's not a bad thing. I also finished Necrotech by Jonathan Marbury, the 5-time Bram Stoker Award winner. I'd show you this. I think it's kind of cool. The inside card cover. I like that. Really shiny too, you see, and nice reflective. In any case, Necrotech. Weird Tales presents Necrotech by Jonathan Mayberry. And this book is the connection to me having Cthulhu on the table at the beginning. So you know I wasn't lying to you. This was a fun sci-fi horror book. Quick synopsis, trying to be spoiler-free. So Asphodel Station is setting up a test firing of something called a warp line gun, which is set to transport a probe across the galaxy to test the new technology that is basically teleportation. But something goes wrong, as it often will. And instead of Asphodel Station and the warp line gun firing the probe across the universe, Asphodel Station itself ends up being transported someplace they do not recognize and physically may seem to be completely impossible. I'm pretty sure if I remember my mythology correctly, Asphodel refers to like a purgatory type place between the Elysian fields and the underworld or something of the sort. And it actually is kind of relevant. I think he did that on purpose. After the station is teleported, the people aboard the space station begin waking up, and things are not right. People are not where they were on the ship, on the station, when it was fired. The gun was fired. Things are aboard the ship that shouldn't be there. Things are warped into the walls of the space station, and there are people that are dead and missing, and everybody's pretty disoriented, including the station's AI, which is offline and is struggling with itself to re-establish connection and re-establish who and what it is. That's when things start to get interesting, because this book uses Lovecraftian mythology in a very cool way. As you figure out that the elder gods, the outer gods, etc., were not just stories made up by Lovecraft, but more channeled by him from truly existing beings. And as Asphodel Station sits above a dead planet covered in cities that have been destroyed and fields, millions of ships, spaceships, fighters, etc., that have been deactivated and crashed to the planet, we find out that something has been made aware of Asphodel Station in this space and is coming. And these things are based on Lovecraftian horror, Lovecraftian mythology. And it gets very, very cool, very, very fun. It involves the Shoggoths are on the way, and they fly ships that have the ability to change and transform. The planet is covered with similar technology, but can only be flown or controlled by the spirits of the dead. This book has space battles, it has giant mechs, it has Lovecraftian monsters, it has aliens and things that I don't want to tell you about because they're fun surprises. This was a lot of fun to read. I was struggling there to give you as much information to make it interesting as possible without giving too much away. But there's a lot of interesting things to discover in the book. It's a great deal of fun. If you like sci-fi horror, if you're into things like Alien or The Thing, to use examples, but there are many more. And I really am a fan of sci-fi horror. So if you are, highly recommend. 4 stars. Good book. I'm having a good reading month as far as quality goes, because of the 4 books I finished, 3 of them were 4 stars or above, and highly recommend. I'm getting through my TBR way slower than I'd like. Hopefully that'll pick up in the second half of the month. And by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day. So as far as what I am reading, I did get about 60 pages into Hero's Journey, the Sterling E. Lanier. That is a fantasy, but it seems to take place in a post-apocalyptic world. You can communicate with animals, and I don't know a whole lot yet because, like I said, I'm only about 60 pages in, but that's what I'm going to focus on more starting tonight. And also, as a heads up, so tomorrow the new Hunger Games prequel comes out, and I do want to read that, so I'm going to pick that up, and that's going to jump into my TBR, and I'm going to try to finish that in a couple of days and get out a quick review for it before the end of the week. I'm not going to rush my way through it. I'm going to try to enjoy it, though. So hopefully I will have that if you're interested, and hopefully I'll have it out by Friday. And I'm also going to start this week The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I kind of jumped out of order, I realized, with the Sager books, but I don't think it really matters. I was trying to read them in order, and the next one should have been Lock Your Doors or something. But anyway, this will be it. I'll get to that before the end of the week, hopefully, because I want to concentrate on Hero's Journey and then the new Hunger Games book. But that'll be what I'm reading. I haven't put any time into my manga or graphic novels this week, so I'm going to also work on Kaiju number 8. Hopefully have that finished by tomorrow or such, depending how much time I get to read. But in any case, that's what I am reading and what I will be reading. Also, an ebook. I am still working on Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. I'm about halfway through. It is really good. Like I said, every book seems to be getting better. And so I'm wanting to be continuing that. I think I'll be able to be done with it by the end of the month, hopefully. So on the channel this week, I did, of course, the weekly wrap up, started it, but I did a haul of my classic Tarzan books. It's just a video showing off. I have all 24 of the original, well, not original, but old school paperbacks of Tarzan. And I did a video showing those. If you're interested, I'll put a card at the end for it. I'm hoping to do something on the channel with those. I have an idea for the future. Hopefully I'll get to that. And also I did my top 10 young adult books I like for someone who doesn't really like a young adult. And I'll put a card for that. I don't read a lot of young adult. I have read it. I will read it. Like I said, I'm reading the new Hunger Games book this week, and so that's why I did my top 10 young adult books. It is kind of like in honor of that, I guess. Be the simplest way to put it. But if you care which young adult books somebody who doesn't really like young adult likes, or what I consider to be my favorite top 10, of course, I haven't read them all, then, check it out. Feel free to put in your opinion on that. Sure, some of mine will be controversial. I can promise you there is no Twilight, no Divergent on there, in case you're interested. Those might make my worst 10 list, but in any case, so those are what I've done. My next week, my videos, I'm hoping to, the rest of this week, I should say, I'm hoping to do another vintage book haul, pulp book haul, paperback book haul on Wednesday, if I can get that out. And then, like I said, by Friday, I want to do a review of the new Hunger Games prequel. If you're interested, come back for that. I'd love to have you. But that's the channel for the week. Now, if you stick with me through what did I watch this week, it does have a book connection. So if we're going to jump away because you don't care what I watched, it does connect the books. So you'll be more interested. And that is Electric State. It was released on Netflix this week. And this is based on a property by artist Simon Stollenhag. He originally wrote a bunch of art books with a narrative, and those were actually turned into a role-playing game, and that was called Tales from the Loop. And it even got a TV show. So this is the role-playing game. And they're art books, but they do have a narrative. He kind of tells a story with not just with the art, but there's some other stuff in there. But so he originally wrote the Tales from the Loop. Then he started doing art for Electric State, which is the same idea. It is a collection of artwork. There's a lot of robots and sci-fi stuff in there. It's very sci-fi oriented. And they made a movie out of those books. It stars Christopher Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown, from Guardians of the Galaxy and the Stranger Things, along with a pretty well-known cast filling in some of the rest of it, including Alan Tudyk playing a voice and a character. So watch that. And I gotta say, it's make a great family movie. It's PG-13. It's very family friendly. It was a lot of fun. I prefer my sci-fi to be a little more hard-edged, but it's a fun watch. They did a really good job on it for a Netflix movie. The special effects, the story, it was fun. The voiceovers were great. The idea is very family friendly. And I don't mean that in a negative way, in case you're a hardcore sci-fi fan. It was just fun. I meant it was kept fairly tame, but it had all the aspects of a good sci-fi story. And it's worth a watch. It's not something I think I'd repeatedly watch, but it's definitely enjoyed watching it one time. Fun story, fun cast, good special effects, interesting robots for sure. Just some cliche and eye-rolling moments, but you kind of expect that. Like I said, it's a family-friendly movie, and it was worth the watch. So check it out one time if you got Netflix, especially sit down with the kids and watch it, and you might get a real kick out of it. All right, so what did I listen to this week? If you care about my taste in metal, I actually was listening to the new Bonfire album, which is a criminally underrated 80s hard rock band who actually you can't even find their stuff, their original stuff from the 80s on Spotify. They don't carry it, just their newer stuff. They've been making albums since the 80s. They're still around. They just put out a new album. It's Higher Ground, and they're still good. If you can get a hold of their early stuff, though, it's fantastic. Find it. And once again, I want to say buy physical media, because this is another case where if you want it, it's just not there. Spotify doesn't have everything. I've gone and looked for several things over the years that just they don't carry. A lot of Annihilator, for example, isn't there. Just another example. So in any case, yeah, Higher Ground. They've been doing it since the 80s. They're still rocking. They're originally out of Ingolstadt, Germany. They don't really sound like a German band, in case that matters to you. But they are a great hard rock metal band that did not get the love it deserved, at least not in America. But Higher Ground, good album. Check it out. If you can find some of their older stuff, you can probably find some individual songs. Maybe they're in their albums on YouTube to check it out, but Spotify doesn't have them. If you go looking for it, I would suggest you try the 1987 album Fireworks, which has my favorite song by them, Sleeping All Alone. The video for that's great too. If you want to check it out on YouTube, check out the video for Sleeping All Alone. Good stuff. All right, I will stop talking about my music now. I hope you stuck around. I'd really love to hear from you if you did. And that's the channel for the week. What was coming this week, what I've read, what we did. And I appreciate you being here. Please like, comment, subscribe. Love to hear from you. And remember, the secret to Zen is read books, pet dogs, listen to metal. I hope you come back. Thank you for being here. Have a good day. Later. Grr, arg.